Phil's now on the next tee going, where the hell is this guy? I want to win this golf tournament. I show up, I've got a bloody lip, I'm covered in dirt. I think I've got all his golf clubs. And he's like, did you get mugged? I mean, what in the hell happened?
Hi everyone, Claire Rogers here. We are in Rochester, New York at Pittsford Farms Dairy, where I'm gonna have some ice cream with Jim Bones Mackay and talk all about caddying, Justin Thomas, and of course the PGA Championship. All right, thank you, here we go. We've got Bones here.
What's up?
We're gonna grab some ice cream.
Ice cream, let's get it done.
This is the spot. All right.
The lady will have?
Can I have a small dirty vanilla and a cup, please?
Yeah, good.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
It's on Bones today.
I'm buying.
We'll hope for a JT win this week, so he gets that back. What'd you go with?
Chocolate chip. You know, I don't change it up much.
Your classic go-to?
Yeah. You?
I went with it's called dirty vanilla. It has Oreo. It's basically cookies and cream, I think.
Okay.
But, all right. So I want to talk to you about you.
Okay.
And how did you get into golf and caddying?
I grew up in this town in Central Florida on the East Coast called New Smyrna Beach. And, you know, certainly didn't have any money. There were some golf clubs in the garage, so to speak, and a municipal golf course that as a city resident, I could play for free after 3 o'clock. So for me, that was life-changing. I could get on my bicycle, you know, ride several miles down there, and I did it every day, you know. So you go out there, and of course you end up picking up the range or cleaning golf carts, and for that you got to hit range balls. But after 3 o'clock we could play, and I did it, you know, 360 days a year.
Wow.
And it was actually, Donald Ross was pretty prolific in that part of the world, and he designed several of the holes on this course. So it was a cool place to grow up in terms of, you know, teaching you to get the ball up and down because of the way the greens were put together and things like that. But it was just an incredibly lucky break for me, and to have that gift, if you will, as a child.
Awesome. So that was golf, and
Right.
then you ended up caddying, you know, on the PGA Tour. You've been doing it for a while. How did that even start?
Well, I went to college. I was just good enough, a high school golfer, to play Division II golf. Though I wasn't a very good college golfer, I was just an average guy on the team. But I went to school in Columbus, Georgia, and that was my entree into caddying only because Larry Mize, lived there as a touring pro in the '80s. He still lives there to this day, and it was just a very lucky thing for me. And that it was so cool to have a PGA Tour player play and practice at your club. And when I had time to myself and he was out there practicing, I would go out there and pick up his he'd hit balls and I'd pick them up and bring them back to him, and you become friendly. And then the guy turns around and wins the Masters there in '87, and I happened to be on property that day and right down there behind 12T when he chipped it in on 11, and it's like, holy cow, this whole golf thing is amazing. And a couple years later, I'm finished with school, and it's time for me to get a real job. And literally right at that time, as I'm accepting a job at a bank, he and his caddy split up. And I said to him, is there any way I could put this bank thing off for a couple years and caddy for you? And his initial answer, as it should have been, was absolutely not. But I wore him down, and I pleaded with him, and our agreement at the time was I would caddy for him for 2 years and go back to work at this bank. But on January of 1991, I got in my little beat-up car and drove out to Palm Springs. I knew the second I set foot on that property, I was never going back to the bank. I knew I was in it for life, if you will, and lucky to still be here doing it.
That's awesome. All right, so your nickname.
Yes.
I think I knew your name as Bones before I knew your real name, Jim. So can you tell me how that came about?
Yeah, so just 3 or 4 months later, Larry goes to a tournament in Paris. And there I am, wide-eyed on this flight over there, and I'm seeing the Eiffel Tower and cool things like that. And you're a new caddy on the PGA Tour, and it doesn't matter if it's 1990 or today. If you're new, not many people know who you are, not many people know how long you're going to last. That was certainly the case with me, especially in the olden days when caddying was a little bit different than it is now. And one night we went out to dinner, and it was buffet style, and the first guy through the line was Fred Couples. He was starving, he wanted to go to bed. He had this steaming plate of food, sat down, no silverware. So he looked up there at the people in line, and certain enough, there are the knives and forks, and it was 30 feet to get him, and there was no way he was going to walk those 30 feet at that point in the evening. So he started yelling out these random names at the tall, skinny guy in line, none of which were mine. And then he yelled out Bones because I was so thin. I turned around, brought him a knife and fork, and I was Bones for the rest of the trip. And a month later, everybody on the tour was calling me that. And so, and I must say too, in that era especially, a lot of guys had nicknames they wouldn't tell their mother or their grandmother because of, what they were rated, so to speak. So to get a G-rated nickname like Bones was a lucky break.
You were happy with that one? That's good. So you're working with JT.
Yeah.
What is your favorite memory with Justin Thomas?
My single favorite memory down to the second would be when he made the incredible comeback in Tulsa last year. Obviously the last 2 or 3 holes, you're realizing, holy cow, we're right in this thing. Certain things had gone on the leaderboard. He'd obviously played well, but he's coming from way, way back. And we're playing the very difficult 18th. He hits driver off the tee and hits it perfectly. And he had an 8-iron into that back right hole location. And he hit this shot, and he loved it from the get-go. He started talking to the ball when it was in the air. And I just thought to myself, that's why I'm caddying again. It was just such a cool moment. Of course, at that point, I didn't know if he was going to win or finish third or whatever. We didn't know what was going to go on in the next couple hours, but to play that kind of final round, to drive it like he did there and hit an iron that didn't leave the flag and just hear him be right in the air. It's like, man, this is the greatest job in the world.
That's awesome. Have you ever made a big mistake while caddying?
Oh, yeah.
Any that come to mind?
I mean, I can tell you all kinds of funny stories. I mean, I gave Phil a bad yardage at the Phoenix Open one year. Absolutely, that was, just gutting when that happened. Fortunately for me at the time, it was like on a Sunday when we were in 40th place, but still, it makes you feel like you want to crawl in a hole. I actually caddied for Phil in a tournament in Paris in 1993, and after 2 rounds, he was about 12 shots back, and he made this incredible comeback. Broke the course record on Saturday. He's only several back, and then on Sunday he chipped away at this lead. Steve Elkington was the leader, and Phil ends up birdieing, I think, the 16th hole on Sunday to become tied for lead. So he's gone from 50th to tied for first, and so he's in the last group on Sunday, and you have to walk through this tunnel, underground, if you will, to go to the 17th tee. Well, genius me, I decide I'm going to go over. You're walking with the spectators. It was really, really congested. I said, I'm going to save a lot of time by going over the tunnel rather than under and through. And as I start to walk downhill, all of a sudden I see my ankles and my feet right in front of my face. So my feet have gone out from underneath me. I tumble the last 30 or 40 feet and, get up, dust myself up, pick up the golf bag. I swear to you, there were 6 clubs in it. So now I've got to find the other 8. Phil's now on the next tee going, where the hell is this guy? I want to win this golf tournament. I show up, I've got a bloody lip, covered in dirt. I think I've got all his golf clubs. And he's like, did you get mugged? I mean, what in the hell happened? Anyway, so that was, embarrassing. Fortunately, he went on and won the tournament. But, if you're out here long enough, all kinds of crazy things are going to happen to you. You're going to see it happen, and it's going to happen to you, and I've been through all of that.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned as a caddy over the years? That you can never appreciate enough how good these players are. You just can't. These guys are amazing. And as I tell people, when you get the real superstars, it always blows me away that they will play the best golf of their lives on the biggest stage that they'll ever play on. Yeah.
When I was so naive, I thought, well, if a guy's going to play the best round of his life, it's going to be in Palm Springs when it's blowing 3 miles an hour, when you're in 40th place and you have a gallery of 6.
Yeah.
But some of these guys are so darn good, that they can go out there and play the round of their lives to win these huge tournaments. Like when Justin won the Players, I wasn't caddying for him, but he hit the first 17 greens on Sunday, things like that. And the best round of golf I ever saw Phil play was the last round of the British Open in 2013 to win by, coming from 5 back. And of course, Tiger with all the stuff he did. It's just, some of these guys are just next level incredible.
Yeah. Okay, so what's caddy life like? Are you pals with the other caddies? Are you guys sharing information? Are you staying together
Right.
week to week? What's that like?
My best friends are caddies. Joe LaCava, who now works with Patrick Cantlay. We have been the best of friends since 1991. I was in his wedding. He was at my wedding. I'm very close with Michael Greller and Joe Scavron. My best friends are caddies, and I think when I'm 80, if I make it that far, I'll still know day in, day out what those guys are up to. Mm-hmm. The thing that was pleasantly a surprise to me when I started caddying, and it still holds true today, is I thought there would have been a separation between the caddies and the players. but there really isn't. You know, I stayed with Justin a couple weeks ago, you know, though I don't do that very much. And, you know, back in the 90s when I was caddying, when Joe LaCava and I would go to dinner, Fred Couples would come to dinner with us almost every night, it seemed like, you know what I mean? So it's a real fraternity out there. The guys out here, they're really, really good humans, and they're so much fun to be around. And it's this little adventure we're all on, this little, you know, traveling circus, and it's fun to be a small part of it.
Awesome. And then we'll see on social media players, you know, after they win, they might share a photo from the night before of celebrating. For a caddy, what's that like when your player wins? What does your evening look like?
There can be a lot of answers to that. You know, when Justin won the PGA last year, it blew me away how much he had to do after the fact. You know, so he's going to go and he's going to talk to you, and he's going to sit down and he's going to do Sunday night conversation, but he was there for hours after the fact, and to the point where, as much as you're dying to have an alcoholic beverage or, you know, just you chew the fat, you're doubly exhausted by the time you leave. So, you know, you see it that way. There can be incredible celebrations. It can be amazing things. I will say, when you start talking about Ryder Cups, I mean, those Sunday night get-togethers are legendary. And there for a while, it's not funny, but we were losing a lot of Ryder Cups, but we'd always joke, say, well, but we won the party on Sunday night because the Europeans would end up in our team room. So, but the Ryder Cups can be real blowouts and a lot of fun.
All right, so you've been to Oak Hill before.
I have.
So what are your thoughts on it and maybe how it's changed over the years?
This golf course is very, very hard, and it's made harder by the fact that there's pitch in the fairways, and the fairways are very fast. So you have to allow for your golf ball to go a long way once it hits the ground. You know, we're sitting right now talking to you, and it's swirly, it's windy. It's going to be it's arguably the toughest PGA Championship setup I've ever seen.
Awesome. Well, Bones, thank you so much for joining us. This was great.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.